My name is Jake Harrison and I am 35 years old. I work as a data analyst at a large marketing firm in Seattle. Every day starts off with the same routine, hazy mornings filled with strong coffee and the familiar clicks of keyboards echoing through the open office space. I once thought that I had a solid career ahead of me. I enjoyed untangling data like a puzzle and uncovering trends that could boost our clients' performance. My colleagues viewed me as reliable and focused, often turning to me for assistance and guidance. But beneath my calm exterior, there lay an undercurrent of frustration and a nagging feeling of unfulfillment. I often felt overshadowed by my boss, Tim, who was the quintessential opportunist in the corporate jungle, taking credit for my hard work while showering praise on others for my ideas. Tim was not just my boss, he was my nemesis, the insufferable man who had climbed to the top of the corporate ladder by stepping on people like me. One day, as I sat at my desk analyzing trends in consumer behavior, my world was rocked when I learned that my idea for a groundbreaking marketing campaign was about to be presented to the client under Tim's name. My stomach twisted into knots as I realized that he had unceremoniously taken my proposal and claimed it as his own. The anger within me surged like a tidal wave. I was furious and humiliated, convinced that I was being pushed against a wall with no way out. I could not allow this betrayal to slip by without consequences. I needed to stand up for myself and reclaim my hard work. Driven by that need, I set out to confront Tim, fully prepared to lay my grievances out in front of him. But when I did, he dismissed my claims with a wave of his hand and condescending laughter. He told me that I needed to learn my place and that if I wanted to get ahead in life, I should adapt and not whine about it. I walked away feeling weaker than ever and knew that my previous attempts at a resolution were fruitless. My ambition had turned to despair and my hope dwindled. I felt trapped in a system where I was nothing more than a nameless cog in Tim's ruthless machine. Things only worsened from there. With hurt pride, I decided to get even. I started to gather evidence, documenting everything Tim did that was unethical or dishonest. I pored over emails, sat in on meetings, and collected data that clearly showed his deception and manipulation. However, every time I attempted to mar his reputation, he effortlessly dodged my attempts, using his charm to manipulate the narrative. I learned that he had his web of influence, and the more I fought back, the more I felt isolated. My coworkers began to turn against me when they noticed my aggressive stance, whispering behind my back and laughing mockingly as they spoke of my obsession with revenge. The longer I stared into the abyss of revenge and the deeper I dug into my plans, the more I lost sight of who I was. I was no longer Jake, the dependable analyst. I became the frustrated soul drowning in a sea of revenge. I hit rock bottom one fateful afternoon when I discovered that Tim had been promoted to senior manager, a position I had dreamt of for years. The news shattered me into a million pieces, leaving me questioning my self-worth and abilities. I felt my dreams were slipping away, buried under the weight of corporate deceit. But rather than wallowing in a pit of despair, I decided it was time for one last attempt to expose Tim and reclaim my dignity. I devised a plan that would put Tim's actions under the light, and I knew it would require courage and a great risk. I crafted an email to the entire office, confidential information about Tim's unethical practices, backed by the evidence I had gathered over the weeks. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the send button as doubt flooded me, but the thought of living in the shadow of someone who used me began to fuel my determination. I took a deep breath and pressed send. Moments later, chaos erupted in the office. My heart raced as I watched colleagues glance at their screens, their expressions somber as they processed my words. Tim stormed over to my desk and the fury in his eyes was palpable. He demanded to know why I had done such a thing and threatened me with termination. But I stood my ground, my voice steady as I faced him. I did this because you've taken advantage of my work for far too long, and I refuse to be silenced anymore. In those seconds, I felt an inexplicable sense of empowerment, standing tall as Tim's facade crumbled before my eyes. The final blow landed when the HR department joined in, calling Tim into a meeting that seemed to last hours. In the days that followed, I watched with an odd mix of satisfaction and melancholy. Tim was ousted from the company, and they even made a public apology to me for allowing his behavior to go unchecked. It seemed I had won, yet I also realized how deeply the ordeal had changed me. Although I had dealt with my nemesis, I had sacrificed a part of myself in the process. Now I had to learn how to navigate this new reality as a different person. My career, once built on collaboration and unity, had forged a new path focused on honesty and integrity. While I sat at my desk, looking over the trends again, I felt an unexpected twist. A colleague who had once turned against me approached with an apology and an offer to collaborate. I was slowly building a more authentic version of my professional self, determined to uphold values I had almost lost in anger. Maybe revenge had not brought me all that I aimed for, but it had illuminated a new path, a chance to rise above. The thrill of telling my story was far sweeter than any form of retribution.